Welcome to Magic Beyond the Books. Today I'm talking about Dedalus Diggle. I'm Renee. Warning, there are Harry Potter spoilers in this episode. Dedalus Diggle is one of the unsung heroes of the Order of the Phoenix who fights against Voldemort in both the first and second Wizarding Wars. He's also the first wizard that Harry Potter ever actually meets. Before we get into Dedalus Diggle, let's get to our listener question of the week. Listener question of the week. If I could visit any location in the wizarding world, where would it be? I think the most obvious answer that people are going to go for is Hogwarts. And also, I think I'm not going to say that because I don't want to go for just the obvious answer. And also, I mean, if you visit Hogwarts, it's a working, operating school. Like, what are you actually going to do there? I would say if I could visit anywhere in the wizarding world, I would pick probably Hogsmeade or Diagon Alley because I think it would be a lot of fun to just stroll the streets, look at all the storefronts, go inside the shops, see all the different products that you can purchase. You know, Hogsmeade, there's something about it that just seems so warm and friendly, and it is an exclusively like all magical creature and wizard village. And it just seems like I think I associate it with them going like there on Halloween and having fun and going on the shops and trying the sweets, and then also going there when it's cold on rainy days or on holidays where it's snowing, and then you go inside and you have a nice warm butter beer. So I feel like it would be really fun to experience that. Let's get back to the episode. All right, so Daedalus Diggle, his estimated birth is sometime pre-1964. So that would make him 28 years old or older by the time Harry goes to Hogwarts in book 1. I mean, I imagine he's probably a little bit older than that, but you would think he had joined the original Order of the Phoenix. So he had to have been at least 17 by the time that the first Wizarding World War was happening. So, you know, I think this is up for interpretation. In the movie, there's a quick scene where he's kind of in the background and he definitely looks older. I mean, he has like gray hair. So I think they're interpreting him as being, middle-aged or older. So I think there's some flexibility here with your interpretation of his age. But he must have been born to either a pureblood or half-blood family because he doesn't seem super familiar with Muggle customs. He is actually, the reason I say the first wizard to meet Harry Potter is because Harry actually runs into him in the Muggle world before he even finds out that he is a wizard, and he meets Hagrid. So at one point in the books, Harry's talking about, weird things that have happened to him in his life. He notes that this random man that he runs into in a shop bows to him, and he's all confused by that. And Petunia and Dudley were with Harry at the time, and Petunia asked Harry if he knew him. And when he said no, she quickly rushed them out of the shop without buying anything. So I think Petunia definitely realized that must have been a wizard and didn't want Harry to find out. She never wanted Harry to find out. They wanted to not have him go to Hogwarts at all. Until Hagrid busts down their door, she's able to successfully avoid him discovering this. So I think in this instance, that's what she was doing. But it's very interesting. I guess Dedalus Diggle couldn't help himself, and he had to bow to Harry. He was such a fan. And his name is first mentioned on the night that Voldemort is defeated. McGonagall's with Dumbledore at Privet Drive discussing everything that's going on. And she says that she thinks it's him who is casting the shooting stars in Kent that the Muggles noticed. She says quote, he never had much sense. We never get confirmation if Dedalus Diggle was the one that was doing that, but based on his personality and, not hiding himself as a wizard from Harry in the Muggle world, I think he maybe throws a little caution to the wind when it comes to, exposing wizards. So I think it's highly likely that it was him. Harry actually formally meets Dedalus Diggle when he goes to the Leaky Cauldron with Hagrid when he takes him to Diagon Alley. And Daedalus Diggle says, "Delighted, Mr. Potter. I can't tell you. Diggle's the name. Daedalus Diggle." And then that's when Harry says he remembers him from seeing him in that muggle shop. And Daedalus is just so happy by this. He's excited. His hat falls off and he goes around and he's just saying, "Oh my gosh, he remembers me. He remembers me." Like total fangirl, which is funny. It looks like I saw some behind the scenes. It looks like they filmed this or filmed part of this exchange in the Leaky Cauldron in the movie, but it got cut. So I saw a version where you kind of see like the behind the scenes with the cameras, but I don't know if there's a version out there that just shows it as part of the scene. But basically, right before he meets Quirrell, he's kind of going down this line of wizards and witches, and he would have met Daedalus Diggle right before he, goes to Quirrell. So that's where it was supposed to be in the movie, but ended up cutting it. Harry then encounters Daedalus Diggle again in book 5. So the members of the Order of the Phoenix that are called the Advance Guard come to pick up Harry and take him back to his first visit at Grimmauld Place. And Daedalus Diggle is one of the many people that come. Hestia Jones is there, Kingsley Shacklebolt is there, Mad-Eye Moody is there, Remus Lupin is there, and this is his first encounter actually meeting Tonks, Nymphadora Tonks. And Daedalus Diggle is also noted to be there. So this is his first time actually, going to the Dursleys and getting into the house, which he actually comes back to the Dursleys later, and I'll get to that. So again, Daedalus Diggle, when he runs into Harry at Privet Drive, he's very excited that Harry remembers they met before, and he's, bringing that up. And he's just, always fangirling for Harry. And then back at Grimmauld Place, when Harry's there, Moody ends up showing Harry an old picture of the original Order of the Phoenix. That picture includes his parents, the Longbottoms, and a bunch of other people, Dumbledore. And Daedalus Diggle is also in that photo. So that's how we have confirmation that he was a part of the original Order of the Phoenix. Then, so that's the 5th book. He comes back again in the 7th book. So Daedalus Diggle and Hestia Jones are the ones that get assigned to guard the Dursley family in book 7. So they take Petunia, Vernon, and Dudley and put them in hiding and guard them from Voldemort finding them. And Voldemort doesn't ever find them, or that never comes up. You never see them again after the beginning of book 7. So I think it can be assumed that, they were successful and they were able to stay in hiding and be safe. So Daedalus Diggle is busy with that for the rest of the book 7, so he doesn't come back up. But he has such a funny interaction. So him and Hestia show up and, they're meeting the Dursleys for the first time, even though they've been to the house. And they basically, Daedalus Diggle does a ton of stuff to make Vernon just not like him. The first thing is when he arrives at the house, he's so happy to see Harry, and then he addresses the Dursleys as, quote, Harry Potter's relatives, which I'm sure they hated. And then he tells Vernon that they're going to be the whole plan of how they're going to drive away, and then they're going to disapparate from away from the house to not show any magic at the actual house. So, and he asks Vernon if he knows how to drive, and Vernon's like, "Of course I know how to drive." And he says, "Oh, you're so clever for knowing how to drive," which makes Vernon, lose a lot of faith in this guy. Diggle says, "I personally would be utterly bamboozled by all those buttons and knobs." And then he, as Harry's, sending them off, he tells Harry that he thinks that the Dursleys will like him. "Oh, I'm sure we shall end up the best of chums," which just shows that he's, Daedalus Diggle is very positive, very upbeat, and has a little bit of high expectations for the Dursleys. Maybe he had a different opinion after being with them for a while. And he leaves this exchange telling Harry good luck. "I hope we meet again. The hopes of the wizarding world rest upon your shoulders." So he definitely understands the gravity of the situation. I think everyone in the Order of the Phoenix, though they don't know the contents of the prophecy and they don't know exactly the mission that Harry's on, they know that he is key for taking out Voldemort and he kind of needs to be protected. And yeah, the that's the last we see of Daedalus Diggle. He does get mentioned. So when they're at the Bill and Fleur's wedding at the Burrow, the Ministry falls and the Death Eaters go to all the Order of the Phoenix houses. This doesn't really get covered in the movies, and they actually learn, Harry, Ron, and Hermione actually learn about this later from Lupin. But essentially, when the Ministry of Magic falls, the Death Eaters, when they go to all these houses, they actually burn down Daedalus Diggle's house, but he wasn't there because he was with the Dursleys. As we know, he was off in hiding. So it didn't affect him other than having to lose his house, but he definitely, had to make a sacrifice for the Order of the Phoenix. So that's pretty much Daedalus Diggle's timeline throughout the stories. He's a pretty minor character, but he does get mentioned quite a few times, appearing in the first, fifth, and seventh books. And as far as the movies, they only have him kind of in the background of the scene in the Leaky Cauldron when Harry is first entering the wizarding world. He's not seen again. So the actor just played, the role in that one Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone movie. Let's get into the etymology of Daedalus Diggle. First, I'll talk about the name Daedalus. It's spelled Dedalus. It's supposed to be derived from the Greek word Daedalus, which means finely worked or skillfully made. It's probably a spelling variant of Daedalus, Daedulus. The most famous Daedalus is the master craftsman, architect, and inventor from Greek mythology. Most people, I think, are familiar with the story of, Icarus and his father building him these wings of wax and feathers. So Daedalus is the father, Icarus is the son. And, they're escaping from prison. The father, that's this master craftsman, builds them these feathers. And, the sun, the whole like flying too close to the sun thing, that's from that, Greek myth. And then also Daedalus in the Greek myths, he's famous for creating the labyrinth, which ends up imprisoning the Minotaur. So again, it basically his whole thing is being a craftsman, an architect, an inventor. And so the name Daedalus kind of has become a symbol of human ingenuity, creativity, the power of innovation. He represents the drive to overcome challenges through inventions and problem solving, critical thinking type of thing. I'm not really sure how that fits into Daedalus Diggle. I mean, maybe I think that J.K. Rowling just liked the name and she likes the alliteration names, and a lot of the kind of more minor characters have alliteration names. So I think it's more just the sound of it and it sounding kind of wizardy and fun, because we don't really get anything about Daedalus from Harry Potter doing anything like craftsman worthy or inventing anything. They just seem to make him out like he's just this happy-go-lucky wizard that's maybe a little bit foolish at times and a big Harry Potter fangirl. So I'm not really sure if the name fits with the etymology, but just figured I'd share. And then as far as Diggle, it's believed to originate from the village of Diggle in Greater Manchester, England. So that's probably where it's from. Diggle as a verb means to search or rummage through something, often in a playful or messy way. So that could kind of apply to Daedalus Diggle, that last definition, or maybe it's just an English name. So, it makes sense like for a character that lives in England, but that's a little background behind his name. Let's get into fan theories about Daedalus Diggle. So the biggest fan theory or question that people have is, why was Daedalus Diggle in a muggle shop when he ran into Harry, pre-Harry knowing about being a wizard? Did he just go in to see Harry specifically? Did Dumbledore send him to watch over Harry while he was out of the house? There's a lot of questions about that. And even how did Daedalus Diggle know what Harry looked like to know that he was Harry? So I'll kind of address my thoughts on it. First of all, I think it's way too random that he would just happen to be in a muggle shop where Harry happened to be at one random point in time. I think that he must have been there, been assigned to be there, or been following Harry. And I can imagine that since he was a member of the Order of the Phoenix, Dumbledore sent him. And maybe Dumbledore was sending people throughout Harry's whole upbringing. I mean, maybe he was sending people to watch beyond. We know Mrs. Fig, Arabella Fig, is Harry's neighbor. And she's been watching him and even babysitting him and keeping an eye on him in the neighborhood. But I don't think it's crazy for Dumbledore to have been assigning people while Harry's not near the house, especially since it seems like that would be when he was most vulnerable, just out in the world. And then also, Dumbledore later indicates that, he knows a lot about Harry's upbringing, about him being neglected and the Dursleys not treating him right. So beyond Arabella Fig's, information, I imagine that he could have gotten more information by having spies kind of always on Harry. He doesn't mention recognizing anyone from the Wizarding World once he enters. It's not like he meets McGonagall and he's like, oh, she looks familiar, or, meets any of the other Order members and thinks that they look familiar. Dedalus Diggle is the only one where this is specifically called out. But we also know that Dedalus Diggle actually bowed to him, and it kind of exposed himself in the way that he actually addressed Harry instead of hiding in the background. So I think that it doesn't seem too crazy that other people would be spying on him from a distance every so often, or maybe just doing routine check-ins when he's out of the house. I would imagine that would be something Dumbledore would do. And then to the question about how would Dedalus Diggle know what Harry Potter looks like, this is pretty easy. I mean, Harry is supposed to be practically the spitting image of his father, James Potter, and James Potter was in the Order with Dedalus Diggle. So anyone who knew James Potter would definitely recognize Harry. I mean, I think even at a young age, they would know that was, James's son. So I think that's why. And he also everyone recognizes him by the lightning scar on his head. So that's even further indication. I mean, someone looks exactly like someone that you once knew, and they have the lightning scar on their head. I think it would be pretty obvious that it was Harry Potter. I think it is a little bit odd, and there's definitely some questions that can be raised with how can wizards find Harry? Harry's supposed to be protected where Voldemort couldn't find him, but then you have Dedalus Diggle run into him. You have Dobby able to find his address, and Dobby is the house elf of a Death Eater. So it's a little bit questionable how people are just able to find Harry and interact with Harry, but it seems like Dumbledore has a tight watch on Harry's whole, upbringing. And Daedalus obviously works with Dumbledore, so I think you chalk it up to Dumbledore does know that he ran into Harry. And then elf magic is very mysterious, so I think maybe the whole Dobby thing just slipped through the cracks with Dumbledore not having as much purview over watching house elves. Let's get into fan casting Daedalus Diggle. So David Brett plays him in the first movie, as I said before, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. That's his only movie appearance. And a little bit of background about David Brett. He's an actor and composer and singer. He's known for roles in Circumstances, For Grace, and Dogtown. And he's actually an original member of the British a cappella group, the Flying Pickets. So it's interesting that they cast a singer for this role. Kind of fun little cameo there. And as far as the book description, Daedalus always wears a top hat. Every time he's described as wearing a top hat, whether in the Muggle world or in the Wizarding world. His top hat colors have been described as mauve and violet, so he seems to have a propensity for purplish colors. And he wears a waistcoat and large pocket watch that talks to him, alerting him of times. He's very excitable and happy, squeaky voice, small, so he's a little bit on the shorter side. And as I said, every time he meets Harry, he bows to him. Super fangirl, super excited to see him, and just seems like a happy guy. He seems surprisingly unaffected by all the darkness that he, I'm sure, encounters being part of the Order of the Phoenix. So maybe he is supposed to be younger. I'm not sure, like maybe more naive or just the type of person that doesn't let terrible things get him down. So as far as fan casting, I think there's a lot of opportunities for Daedalus Diggle. You could go in a lot of different directions with him. I've seen people say fan casting Martin Short as Daedalus Diggle. Martin Short, you might know him from Only Murders in the Building and all of his more comedic roles. I think that's a great fan cast. Martin Short would be a good Daedalus Diggle. Here are my fan casts for Daedalus Diggle. Ken Jeong from the Hangover movies and Community, the TV show, Crazy Rich Asians. He could definitely play the comedic part. Billy Crystal from When Harry Met Sally, City Slickers, and Princess Bride. Or my last choice for Daedalus Diggle would be Roberto Benigni from Life is Beautiful. He is a little bit shorter as well. So that's kind of where my mind is at. I think Daedalus Diggle, Ken Jeong, Billy Crystal, Roberto Benigni, or Martin Short would all be good fan casts for him. People that are a little bit shorter and funny and just happy, friendly looking people. That's really all for Daedalus Diggle. He's a small character in the Harry Potter world, but he has a big impact with all of his work for Order of the Phoenix. So let's give him his credit there. And signing off, thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to rate and subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. And until next week, happy reading, happy listening, and may you never have your head stuffed down the toilet at Stonewall High.